Welcome to Module 3 of the Divisioning e-learning series. In this module, we will learn about how the sports of bocce, bowling, and golf are divisioned. Bocce, 5 and 10 pin bowling, and golf have been grouped together for this module because they have a number of similarities. As individual sports, divisioning for bocce, bowling, and golf is based on gender and then ability, and does not use age as a divisioning factor. Divisions are set up using qualifying scores which are submitted ahead of time or determined during the divisioning round at the competition. For bocce, qualifying scores will come from the results of a skills assessment that can be done ahead of the competition or during the scheduled divisioning at the competition. For 5 and 10 pin bowling, the qualifying score is the seasonal average over a set minimum number of games. For golf, the seasonal average of 6 games can be the qualifying score, or the competition schedule will include a preliminary round. We'll explore a bit more about how these qualifying scores are determined in the following slides. Major competitions will offer a sport technical package that provides coaches and athletes with the full details for that competition. Here, we will provide a guideline as to what will be expected for qualifying scores in bocce. The skills assessment for bocce requires that the athlete plays a set of 3 modified games, one where the Polino is at a 30-foot line, one where the Polino is at the 40-foot line, and one where the Polino is placed at the 50-foot line. This may be done ahead of the competition or during scheduled divisioning rounds at the competition. The athlete will play 8 balls toward the Polino at each distance, and the 3 closest balls will be measured with their distance recorded in centimeters. The average of the 9 distances, the 3 closest for each modified game, will determine the athlete's score for divisioning. If this is a team competition, a combined average for 2 or 4 players may be used. Season-long averages are to be submitted as qualifying scores in 5 and 10 pin bowling. A minimum of 25 games must be played for 5 pin bowling, and a minimum of 21 games is required for 10 pin bowling. For 5 pin athletes heading to national games, the higher of the averages submitted for provincial games and the current season's average will be used for divisioning. For 10 pin bowlers competing at national games, if their current season's average is more than 10 pins higher or lower than the average submitted for provincial games, the current season's average will be used. Of course, coaches will know the importance of keeping records of their athletes' scores, usually in the form of league record sheets or the equivalent. These are required to be submitted for those athletes who proceed to higher level games. Competitive golfers currently compete in Level 4 play, which is a 9-hole round. Players shall register by submitting a verified handicap or the most recent and verified 6 scores over 9 holes. Coaches and athletes are reminded of the importance of keeping their golfing statistics over the season. These records will be used to establish divisions unless a preliminary round can be scheduled. If a preliminary round is part of the competition, the score from that round will be used to division the final round of the competition. As with all Special Olympics sports, athletes compete against other athletes with a similar ability level. Competing in divisions based on ability allows athletes fair, meaningful, and equitable competition. The next few slides will discuss ability level divisioning in bocce, 5 and 10 pin bowling, and golf. In bocce, athletes will be divisioned within their gender category based on their skills assessment scores, starting with the highest ability level. Divisions will be made up of a minimum of 3 athletes and a maximum of 8. Athletes with the same average will be included in the same division. A 25% performance guide will be used to determine divisions, keeping in mind that the 3 athlete minimum division size will also be implemented. For 5 and 10 pin bowling, Athletes will be divisioned within their gender category based on their seasonal average, starting at the highest ability level. Divisions will be made up of a minimum of 3 athletes and a maximum of 8. Athletes with the same average will be included in the same division. A 25% performance guide will be used to determine divisions, keeping in mind that the 3 athlete minimum division size will also be implemented. 5-pin bowling competition may include team play, which, in similar fashion to individual competition, is also divisioned by ability. Teams are co-ed, so gender is not a factor in divisioning. Age remains not a factor as well. Teams are placed into divisions based on the team's total average, starting with the highest ability level. Divisions will be made up of a minimum of 3 teams and a maximum of 8 teams. Teams with the same combined average will be included in the same division, and a minimum 25% performance guide will be used to determine divisions, keeping in mind that the 3-team minimum division size will also be implemented. 10-pin competitions also offer team play, which could be for teams of 4 or doubles. Team play for 10-pin does division by gender. Any team with at least 1 male bowler will be included among the male divisions. Age is not a factor for divisioning team play. Teams and doubles pairings are placed into divisions based on the team's total average, starting at the highest ability level. Divisions will be made up of a minimum of 3 teams or pairings and a maximum of 8. Teams with the same combined average will be included in the same division. As well, a 25% performance guide will be used to determine divisions, keeping in mind that the 3-team minimum division size will also be implemented. In golf, athletes will be divisioned in their gender category by their preliminary round score, starting at the highest ability level. If the competition does not offer a preliminary round, the qualifying score of the average of their most recent 6 games will be used for placing the athletes into groups for competition play. In this case, athletes will be redivisioned based on their final tournament stroke score in order to determine placements. Divisions will be made up of a maximum of 8 athletes. Athletes with the same qualifying score will be included in the same division. In golf, a 20% performance rate will be used to determine divisions. The divisioning process is an important part of competition, especially when there is an opportunity for advancement. In Stage 1, coaches submit athlete averages for 5 and 10-pin bowling and golf, or for Bocce, a skills assessment, in advance for the qualifying games competition. There may be a divisioning or preliminary round of competition, especially in Bocce or golf, at the provincial qualifier or games. During Stage 2, athletes are placed into divisions based on the qualifying scores. In Stage 3, the competition proceeds with athletes competing against other athletes in their assigned divisions. In the following slides, we will review a divisioning scenario as an example of applying the divisioning process in this set of sports. In this 5-pin bowling example, we have 12 female bowlers of various ages. The athletes have been ranked based on their qualifying scores, those being their seasonal averages, starting at the highest ability. Once we have completed the math as explained in the next slide, we see that the athletes have been assigned to one of 3 divisions, F1, F2, and F3. These athletes will compete against each other for the duration of the event and receive placements within their division. We will now illustrate how the 25% performance rate is calculated. It is important to note that in GMS, the 25% performance guide is not calculated starting with the fastest or slowest time, but rather by the median time. From the example on the previous slide, we will start at the highest average, 192, and work our way down. We notice a natural break after 148, so we will start with that set of numbers. In order to determine the median time, we need to find the difference between the two numbers and split that number in half, which is 192 minus 148 equals 44. Half of 44 is 22. By subtracting 22 from 192, we find the median average between 148 and 192, that being 170. Let's half the 25% performance rate to 12.5 and add or subtract 12.5% to and from 170. The resulting numbers are 191 and 149, with the high and low scores in that division with a 25% performance rate. If we then look at the next division, we'll apply the same formulas to a top average score of 112 and try the score of 98 as the bottom number. This results in a division with high and low scores of 118 and 92. In the next slide, we will revisit the divisions to see how this fits. After reviewing our chalkboard exercise, we see that the first division, F1, has a greater spread of averages than the 25% performance guide would allow. However, we also need to have a minimum of 3 in a division, so the top 3 averages become F1. In division F2, we could include all the averages from 112 through to 93. However, this would leave F3 with fewer than 3 athletes, so we include 93 in the F3 division. If we were to do the math for F3, we would find that the numbers fall outside of the 25% performance guide, but we do need to maintain a minimum of 3 athletes in each division. Each of bocce, 5 and 10 pin bowling, and golf uses an established average score for placing athletes into divisions that are split by gender but not by age. The process of divisioning by ability creates a fair, meaningful, and equitable competition where athletes are competing against athletes of a similar ability. Let's review a handful of important definitions. Divisioning is the structure and the process for athletes to compete in groups, known as divisions with other athletes of similar ability. Preliminary is the pre-competition ahead of the main competition. For example, a preliminary round of golf will determine the score to be used for placing the athlete into a division. This may also be referred to as the divisioning round. Average, the resulting number after dividing the sum of a set of scores by the number of scores. In bowling, the season-long average is determined by dividing the sum of 25 game scores by 25. Skills assessment, a questionnaire and the results of a series of skill tests that the athletes on each team have been assessed on by their coach. These assessments are completed in advance of the qualifying or games competition and submitted to the competition host. Thank you for taking Module 3 of the Divisioning 101 course. We hope that you have gained a better understanding of how the sports of bocce, bowling, and golf are divisioned during competition. If you would like to take another module in the Divisioning 101 series, please return to the course's main page and select the module that you would like to take. Thank you!